Here we are with What Caused the Salem Witch Trials Part 2, and we're going to talk about some more evidence from Salem and stretch from the witchcraft to what maybe some of the causes for it were. So the first document I'm going to share here is titled Putnam Porter Selectmen, and this is in your materials section. This document identifies a few things for you, and if you take a closer look at it, and you can, of course, blow this up, the top rows here identify town selectmen, and selectmen are elected officials in a town that basically make up the town government. And these individuals have the ability to make regulations, rules, and so on and so forth. These are essentially the town leaders. So if you take a look at this chart, you can see that predominantly there are two families involved in town government. And if you look closely, you can identify the longest serving member. You can identify which families are involved in town government, and you can identify which family has the most members serving in the town government. And what is interesting to uh, glean from this chart is that along with holding the office of selectmen is also a certain amount of control of the town or power involved. And so you can see that predominantly one family has a good chunk of control over the towns of Salem, Salem Village. Now on this chart, you can see there's somewhat of a vacancy in 1687, 88, 89 for the Porter family, although Thomas Gardner is a relation of the Porters, so he's also holding office in here. But at that time, you also have Putnams taking a role in town government. And the transition back to more Porter control takes place in 1690 and 91, which is the advent of the Salem witch trials. So I would encourage you to take a little look at this chart, as Salem is divided into two family groups here as far as the selectmen of the town go. You have the Porter family and their extended family, and the Putnam family and their extended family. Okay, this next document I would encourage you to pick up from where it says Samuel Paris. This is titled Social Theories, and it gives you a little background on the situation in Salem where they were appointing reverends. And you have your Salem town, which is on the east side, and Salem Village on the west. Salem Village claimed to be independent, and as such, they wanted to appoint their own minister. That was one of the things in colonial society. As soon as you were identified as a separate town, you could have your own church. It reduced your travel. It brought your community closer together. But at this point, Salem town still has control in appointing the minister in Salem Village. And Salem Village is paying tax money to Salem town, which in turn supports those ministers. So the religious situation here also has some political implications. So one of the first ministers that Salem Village appoints on their own is Reverend Bailey, and he ends up causing some internal bickering and disarray. In other words, some people aren't happy with the job he's doing. The townspeople start complaining, and Salem town decides they're not really interested in having him doing that job anymore, so they find a replacement. Um, One of the replacements over this time period, when several ministers don't work out, is Reverend Paris. And this is an appointment by Salem Village. And the town isn't too happy with this appointment. Salem town is not happy with Reverend Parris being the minister, and they verbally oppose this. The appointment of this minister has some other problems with it. What they find is the richer population in Salem Village also oppose Reverend Parris. So you have the rich in Salem Village opposing Parris, and you have the rich in Salem Town opposing Reverend Parris. At this time, as we've mentioned earlier, Salem Town is developing into a merchant class. There's economic change. Not everybody is a farmer anymore. There's people doing other jobs, and the village is content with the old ways of raising a farm and bartering and trading. But this other part, the town, is now changing economically. So there's also this disputed way of life going on. And the town, which is changing for merchant class and economics, they still have control over the village minister. And they want to assert their authority, and the village is trying to break onto its own and control its own destiny. So you have this conflict going back and forth between the two groups, and the two groups, as we saw with the previous chart, were politically opposed, and I'm going to show another chart which identifies some more connections for you. Okay, so this chart is titled Chart 6, an Anti-Paris Network. So what you have here in the center is Israel Porter. And you notice that he was one of the selectmen. He is the leader of the Porter family. And as you analyze this document, you can see as it branches out from Israel Porter. You'll be able to see the connections with all of these people, and then you'll also be able to see how connections to Israel Porter may have influenced what happened to this group of people. So I want you to take a few minutes to look at that, and then on your graphic organizer, you can answer the question for this document. But read closely how all of these people are connected, and if you look at it, it's somewhat telling at the circumstances or what happened to this group of people. Okay, so now if you take the information in this chart and you also connect that to the map that we looked at yesterday in class, the one with the Salem village and town divided with the A's on one side and the W's and D's on the other. If you connect that map with this diagram, it should provide you with a little more understanding of what was going on in Salem at the time. Okay, and here's our last document to observe today. This one is titled The Widening Circle of Witchcraft Accusations. And notice right in the center is Tituba, the slave, and there's the circle around Tituba, which identifies the other eccentrics and outcasts. And that would include Bridget Bishop and Sarah Osborne, some of the first accused witches. So they're considered eccentric, which means, strange or different, and outcasts, people that are not welcome in the community. As the circle of witchcraft widens, we get into grudge victims. So this is essentially victims of revenge, and included there you have Rebecca Nurse and George Burroughs. So it'll be interesting if you take this circle and match it up with the previous diagram we just looked at, and see if you can identify if anyone is connected on that. And then finally, we have a much wider circle here, which is titled Witchcraft Skeptics. And here you have John Proctor and Giles Corey. So again, um, they're skeptical of the witchcraft accusations. They're not really, believing in witchcraft happening in Salem, and they might think there's other explanations for what's going on. And again, take a look at those individuals and see if they connect somewhere to the other diagrams. So we've looked at many pieces of evidence about why Salem happened. We've identified why people would believe in the girls' witchcraft accusations. We've looked at the economic situation in Salem at the time. We've identified where political power lied in Salem and where there was a struggle over it. And we've also included the potential for a family feud, and then a widening circle of witchcraft accusations, which identifies several possible reasons. So, using all of this information, you should be able to write a well constructed paragraph that explains why the Salem witch crisis occurred. And that will be your culminating activity for this lesson. So that is located in Google Classroom with your organizer for the document analysis, and then that paragraph that will explain why you believe the Salem witch trials were caused. And as with most written assignments, we want to make sure that you can provide evidence from the sources. So, from all of the activities we've studied here on why this happened, you want to include a couple examples of those and fully elaborate and explain what you believe really happened in Salem using the CER format: the claim, evidence, reasoning. Claim is your thesis, providing evidence from the sources, and reasoning or the explanation of those sources. So that is your assignment, and we'll see what you come up with.